This is the news at 12. Let's look at the headline. Patriotic Front presidential hopeful CHISHIMBA KAMBWILI police bond. Mailers attribute high prices of melamine to load shedding and expensive fuel. Manchester City charged with breaking financial rules by Premier League. We have the details shortly.
Hi ladies and gentlemen, I'm Cholwe from Cho's Fitness Gym. We're a fully functional gym located along Twin Palm Road in Kablonga, right by Cheshire Homes Society of Zambia. So we have various classes that happen from Monday to Friday. We have aerobics, we have boot camp, we have step aerobics, we have spinning, we have kettlebell classes. They happen from 18 to 19 hours every day, and we are open from 06 until 20 hours. That's Monday to Friday. Then Saturdays 6 to 12. And then Sundays we are closed, and most public holidays we are open 6 to 12.
A 76-year-old woman living with blindness in Kalikiliki compound of Lusaka's MEALIE constituency fears that she will soon be left homeless, stating that all her 4 children who took care of her are now deceased. Speaking to Camnet News, Ms. Tembo says that she is currently living in one-roomed house belonging to her last-born daughter's landlord, who has only allowed her to live there until his return from the village. The old woman is now calling for relocation into an old people's home, fearing that she may end up on the streets. We have details in this report.
Despite being captured under the social cash transfer program, this 76-year-old woman living with blindness in Lusaka's Kalikiliki compound of MEALIE constituency, Felicitas Tembo, says she has been unable to collect her social cash transfer money for about 4 months now, stating that she lives alone and has no one to take her to the point of collection. Ms. Tembo says she has been left alone after the death of all her 4 children and may soon be left homeless, as she is currently staying in a one-roomed house at the mercy of her last-born daughter's former landlord. The old woman explains that she was given to live in the one-roomed house until the man returns from his village, which could be any day from now. So pa match tako business ya bwanje. So mfuna ko tandiza bwanje wambuli.
Kunkala na pakudya.
Nanga mmafola ko za ku government ndrama.
Za ku government amani chitowe pacha nzo nitenga kulipereka manchapa kuliboni pereka. Vya kupasa 400. Kuliyo nipereka.
She is currently depending on the small profit that she earns from selling clay soil, which she sells from her kitchen, as she cannot move around without any aid, owing to her not being able to see. Ms. Tembo says she is now calling on the Ministry of Community Development and Social Welfare to help her relocate to an old people's home. Situations similar to that of Ms. Felicitas Tembo are prevailing in many communities, possibly exposing the negligence from some community welfare assistance committee officers whose duty in communities involves identifying such vulnerable people. This scenario also shows the need for government to ensure that the old age policy launched in 2015 is fully implemented, as many old people continue to live in neglected conditions, while others have not yet been captured under the social cash transfer program. Zipora Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
The Nkulumaziba Road and Bridge that leads to Chief Kayindu of Mumbwa District is in a deplorable state. Mumbwa District Commissioner Namkolo Hayumbu, who towards the area, has observed that the bridge is on the verge of collapsing and cautions the people using it to be very careful. Mrs. Hayumbu has since called on relevant authorities to quickly come to their aid by working on the road. Details are in this report.
Nkulumaziba Bridge in Kayindu Chiefdom in Mumbwa District of Central Province is on a verge of collapsing if no proper attention is given. Crispin Hamamba and school learners are concerned about its state.
The bridge ila jati ya areas wonse we are going to Chief Kayindu. Then ogulima farmers banji maningi bakuti tomato ko izwa kweno. So amati mota inda is a challenge. Then bona mulimbo twasiye ino mura irawa every day. Ongo muri clinical. So amati bako kubasiri wako kusota bako. Bonji wa bantu baherera munzira. So kuri muga itwaga hara ino. Wali ya clinical no kwana kamboti road. Bona mumwaisia moto katema hivyo. Moto gaguya iraga kiragwinda. Abona muntu wabora wambati bamugeza guya. To yago clinic yasika moto yabora agwinda. Muntu wayara munzira mbara yara bana baraho. So ngoma chareze manyi ngo tubona even bahiji bora nabaja na bridge yazure bahiji bota bahibinda kuyago
imapezeka ati mvula ngayaloka so sometimes bridge imazura ikazula timasoba na kopita sometimes zapeza ati mvula ngayaloka usiku useme zapeza ati vimanzi vili kupita paso zapeza ati ku school talova mati bweza pa mvuyo in terms of star present ku school so tempa chema chikonzele ku bridge ya test wakati anganapo na lodge in fact inapoenda ku school kuja ku bridge inangu ineve mazula ikazula vimatika romangana nsapato so zenze matika che kuseni yonse so tenza pampa chikonzele ku bridge batianganeko na lodge na eve bachikonzele ku enkaleko musho konse kwenda kusogolo mwenda kumumba ku lodge nyono ngeka che.
Farmers in the area have also expressed concern over the bad state of the Kamirambo road.
Peza kuno road yafa tifuna ko road titina maleves manje lepo ukaitiola kuti mupita peto it needs 3 days 4 days as a result nishirepu vaonongeka na matomato kuti vipite vintu tapeza challenge so tunzofuna kuti government please if possible not liti kudari wabura watikonzere ko road at rest in she takonza covid otherwise as at now monga road vemwa yonera kulibe vabwino.
Meanwhile, Mumbo District Commissioner Namkulo Hayumbu, who toured the area to appreciate the cry of the residents, has made a status quo to relevant authorities.
The road is impassable. A lot of trucks which are carrying farm produce, most of them are perishable. We are talking of tomatoes, rape and other vegetables are maroons on the way because there's nowhere they can pass. We have a tractor which is trying to pull them, but there are so many spots which are bad. And us, with my team, who failed to reach the bridge using the vehicle, we had to jump on Hondas for us to reach at the intended site. With the community, I appeal that they should have patience because we've taken note of what the problems they're going through, and we are going to relay the information to the relevant authorities.
Matthias Chewe, Camnet TV News, Mambua.
The Food Reserve Agency has attributed the escalated price of mealie in the country to power deficit and high fuel prices currently obtaining in the country. FRA Chairperson Kelvin Hambwezia says load shedding has been affecting the operations of most milling companies, and the agency will soon engage the power utility company ZESCO to ensure that milling companies are exempted from being load shedded. Meanwhile, Mr. Hambwezia says the agency has agreed with millers that a 25-kilogram bag of mealie will now be sold at a wholesale price of 160 kwacha in Lusaka and 170 kwacha in the Copperbelt province respectively. He says this will accumulate in the retail price amount to 170 kwacha for a 25-kilogram bag of breakfast mealie in Lusaka and 180 kwacha on the Copperbelt. More in this report.
Talks regarding the high cost of mealie prices in the country have continued to make headlines, and efforts being made by the government to lower the price of the commodity do not seem to be yielding results in some parts of the country, as prices of the commodity have still remained high. Monday, the 16th of February 2023, the Food Reserve Agency convened a meeting with millers to discuss the way forward regarding the price of mealie meal. FRA Board Chairperson Kelvin Hambwezia, however, says among the major attributes to the high cost of mealie meal is load shedding and the hike in fuel price.
ZESCO, they must devise a mechanism through which they target millers and give millers ample time to run their mills. Because load shedding alone is pushing the price of mealie meal. It's contributing. The other issue is, of course, the issue of fuel, which I've been taught. The rise in the fuel price also has an effect, but we'll see how we can address that.
And Mr. Hambwezia says 152,000 metric tons of maize has already been made available to the millers, adding that MEALIE meal prices will now be fetching around 170 kwacha for a 25-kilogram bag of breakfast MEALIE meal in Lusaka and 180 kwacha on the Copper Belt for retail price.
Don't expect prices beyond, that's retail, because if X factory is 160, the retailers add another 5 kwacha or so, it gets to 165, 168, 170, somewhere there. So we don't expect retailers now. Now this is another clarion call to the retailers.
And Mr. Hambwezia has since re-echoed the need for the country to diversify its food basket by considering other foodstuff apart from MEALIE meal.
To learn to broaden our food base. We can't be so narrow and just depend on CHISHIMBA. So we need to encourage also that the production of other crops like millet, rice. I know last time when the people were told to eat sweet potatoes, it became political. To eat foods like roller meal, mugaiwa, they're not frowning upon you. It's actually health. It's nutritious. You live long.
Meanwhile, millers who attended the meeting have also added their voice.
We, as patriotic Zambians, are ready to ensure that we do our part to ensure that the price of MEALIE meal is affordable, and therefore in agreement with the board and management and government at large to retail the product at 170 kwacha X factory in Copper Belt.
I want to give credit to the board and management of FRA for this chance to engage, talk about the challenges we've had and what's put us in this situation, and more importantly, how we're going to work together and solve this problem for Zambia.
Traditional leaders have also been advised to apply to the agency in the area that have been affected by lack of maize so that the agency can offload the maize to the affected areas. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Patriotic Front presidential candidate and member of the Central Committee, CHISHIMBA KAMBWILI, will spend the night in police custody for committing a crime of unlawful assembly. Police earlier charged and arrested CHISHIMBA KAMBWILI, age 54, of Woodlands area in Lusaka for the offense of unlawful assembly, contrary to Section 74, read together with Section 75 of the Penal Code, Chapter 87 of the laws of Zambia. This is in connection with a protest march held last week by youths, led by Charles Kakula, who marched against high cost of living and rise of practice of tribalism under the United Party for National Development Administration.
Monday, CHISHIMBA KAMBWILI, one of the candidates aspiring to take over the presidency of Zambia's major opposition political party, the Patriotic Front, woke up to police presence at his Woodlands residence in Lusaka. Armed police officers stormed Mr. KAMBWILI's residence with the motive of arresting him in connection with a protest march held last week by youths led by Charles Kakula, who had marched against the allegedly high cost of living and the rise of the practice of tribalism under the United Party for National Development Administration. Mr. KAMBWILI, who predicted his fate on the likelihood of him spending a night in police cells, had to take care of housekeeping matters.
Mattress, my medicines and everything.
Mr. KAMBWILI later handed himself to the police for interrogations.
And we were informed that their plan was that they wanted to force their way into my premises and house and create a narrative that I was a fugitive running away from the police, so that when they don't give me police bond, when they charge me, they say he was running away from police, to create a narrative why they want to lock me up without giving me police bond. But when we realized that, I called the lawyers quickly and we reported ourselves as planned. Because we wrote to them that I was going to come on Monday, and I've come as promised.
Another PF aspiring president, Emmanuel Mwamba, says the move is tantamount to victimization of opposition political party leaders in the country.
We've said Zambia is not a police state. Zambia is a democracy. democracy run by the rule of law. Many Zambians celebrated when the Public Order Act was repealed. Little did they know that the police will find another law which they'll be using against political opponents.
Danny MEALIE, Zambia Police Deputy Public Relations Officer, confirmed the charge and arrest of CHISHIMBA KAMBWILI for the offense of unlawful assembly.
He has been jointly charged with Charles Kakula, who is already in police custody facing the same offense. It is alleged that the two, whilst acting together with other unknown persons, did unlawful assemble, causing other persons to reasonably fear for the breach of public peace. This occurred on January 26, 2023, between 08 hours and 12 hours in Lusaka. They are detained in police custody awaiting court appearance.
By broadcast time, the suspect was still in police custody. Patrick Soko, Camnet News in Lusaka.
As we're in the news, we look at sports now. The Premier League has charged Manchester City with more than 100 breaches of its financial rules following a 4-year investigation. It has referred the club to an independent commission over alleged rule breaches between 2009 and 2018. It also accused City of not cooperating since the investigation started in December 2018. City said they were surprised by the charges and are supported by a body of irrefutable evidence. The Commission can impose punishments ranging from a fine and points deduction to expulsion from the Premier League. Last season, City won their 60th Premier League title since the 2008 takeover by the Abu Dhabi United Group. What have City been charged with? And as we end the news, let's look at the top stories. Patriotic Front presidential hopeful CHISHIMBA KAMBWILI denied police bond. Millers attribute high prices of meal to load shedding and expensive fuel. Manchester City charged with breaking financial rules by Premier League. Thank you so much for watching. Good afternoon.